Hello and welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. I'm Katrina Collier. I'm, of course, author of the Robot Proof Recruiter, which I definitely don't show enough. And I'm a facilitator and I'm a speaker. I'm, of course, joined by my talented talent acquisition professional, co-host, the one, the only, the amazing Glenn Martin. Hello.
Hola.
Hola. And this week we have another talented talent acquisition professional and also an interview coach. Now, Margaret has coached me on how to say her name, but being an Australian, I'm about to ruin it. It's Margaret Buj. Buj. It's only 3 letters. You think the Collier could get it out, but no, she can't. And of course, we could not be able to have the show at all without our fantastic sponsor, Enterprise Alumni. So thank you very much. Oh my God, Glenn, that's the first week you've pointed the right way. We are making progress. Anyway, welcome to the show, Margaret.
Welcome, Margaret.
Welcome.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Cool. So we open the show every week asking people, how did you get into recruitment, Margaret? Tell us a little bit about your background.
So very briefly, prior to joining recruitment, I worked in for a sales and I was doing sales and marketing for a small book publishing company. And I was enjoying the marketing and PR aspects, but I didn't actually want to stay in sales. And I left the job. I was actually a little bit naive because I should have found another job without, before leaving the company. Anyway, I had some the job. And actually what I did a lot of informational interviews with people doing different jobs that I thought would be a good fit to my skill set.
Yeah.
Cut the long story short, it took several weeks. I did different informational interviews. And I spoke to some friends of friends working in recruitment, and I kind of figured out it might be something that would be a good fit for my skill set and, preferences.
They just didn't mention the sales bit, did they?
No, but I didn't, I was never an agency recruiter. Well, mind you, I was.
Oh, okay.
My career was mostly in-house recruitment, internal recruitment. But anyway, after I've made that decision, I actually got a couple of offers within a month.
Yeah.
Right? It wouldn't happen now. But yeah, I got a couple of offers within the first month. And actually, initially, I did work for a recruitment agency just for a few months. But then in the last 14 years, I've done in-house recruitment.
Kind of dipped your toe in the agency world, just briefly.
For me, it was a choice because so many recruiters I've spoken to, they're like, well, I've fallen into it. I actually chose to go into recruitment. So,
Hang on, no, somebody else did that to me the other day. I can't think.
Who's that?
I've had 2 now. I've only 2 people that I've ever met that have chosen, since 2003, that have chosen to go into it. It's extraordinary. I'm sorry. I'm having it's very warm. I'm sorry. I apologize for COVID here. I'm having a moment. If I keep going I can't cope today. It's so hot and London is having a heat wave.
Yeah.
I missed that, Margaret.
It's going to rain tomorrow and I can't wait.
I know. I'll be sitting outside. That's where you'll find me.
I hope not. I've got a barbecue planned for tomorrow.
It's going to be pouring tomorrow in the morning at least.
Yeah.
So today we are talking tips for how to interview better because you're also an interview coach, right?
Yeah,
so
that's right. So,
how did you start doing that?
It was a little bit by accident, but so I've been in recruitment for close to 15 years and I've done interview coaching for 13 and a half years right now. And I was actually looking for something. I was studying for my coaching qualifications and I was looking for something to do on a part-time basis, but it happened a little bit by accident. A friend lost his job and someone told me, why don't you speak to Margaret? She works in recruitment. She might be able to help you. And this guy was looking for a job for 8 months and, he had a really good background. So I had a chat with him. I had a very good experience, very technical background, but he just wasn't good at selling himself and he was very shy. So anyway, we had a chat, you could call it a session. He started getting second interviews with some good tech companies. We did one session. He got the contract and he's been getting every contract since then. So I'm like,
oh, that's so cool.
No, the other people who need that. And I've already worked in recruitment for, say, 18 months at that stage. And even then, I could see that there were so many people who were qualified. They had really good experience, yet they weren't always as good at selling themselves. There have to be other people who need that help. So I'm very busy in my full-time job. So one Sunday, Sunday was the only day I could work on that. So one Sunday I did research, another Sunday created content for the website. Initial website was super easy, just from templates. My cousin told me how to do it. That was week 4.
By the way, mine is still a WordPress template.
Oh no, mine is it's been professional.
No, I've done mine. I'm still a professional.
Margaret, with
So
just to kind of bring it
by
back
the way,
to that.
can we just put that? I so need a nice lolly. Just throwing that
Certainly
out there.
do, Emma. Yeah. So just bring it back to that first individual that you coached, Margaret. What was his view of his interview style when he came to you? Did he think he interviewed well? Did he have any concerns about his interview approach? Or was he quite aware that perhaps he wasn't kind of communicating? I just wanted to kind of understand how he'd rated himself before obviously being coached by you.
I don't remember exactly how he rated himself, but he knew there was a problem. I mean, he had
Okay.
experience. He was working for a telco company as a business, some kind of business analyst, and really good experience, good career progression. And he knew that something was wrong with his interview technique. But as you know, you don't always get interview feedback. So yeah, I don't remember exactly what he said. We're talking 15 years ago, but no, he knew that he needed some help. He knew that he didn't interview well, and he knew he was quite shy about talking about his achievements and about what he's delivered. But he just didn't know how to change it.
Do you think that's where a lot of people, oops, sorry, that was my email pinging. Do you think that's where a lot of people go wrong? Because it's that you want to talk about your achievements, but you don't want to come across as arrogant. So is that often where people struggle?
Yeah,
or?
Absolutely. I have so many clients who think, well, I don't want to boast about myself, and they don't want to come across as arrogant. But that's absolutely not the case. I think, there's a difference between being confident and being arrogant. So if you are just talking about what you've achieved, it's just being factual. You are providing facts about what you've achieved. And if you can't do it, why would they hire you? So I think if you do have that mindset, and not every client is like that, but if you are someone who thinks, oh, I don't want to boast, you have just don't think about it as boasting. You are simply providing facts about what you have delivered and how it's going to be relevant to the position that you are applying for.
Can I just have a giggle? Sorry, just because I'm using for the first time ever the ticker.
I've seen that.
Ask questions or add questions in the chat. So Lee would actually like to know what a ice lolly is.
Oh, that's one for Google.
Which I think is quite funny. Emma, answer Lee and let him know. So, we have got this though. So this is from Jessica George. So as a recruiter being interviewed, especially for lower level roles currently, it's been difficult to sell the idea that I'm okay with recruiter level versus director level, especially after furlough layoff. How would you handle this? Oh, okay. So you're going for a lower level role than what you currently are, Jessica. Okay, difficult to sell the idea.
Well, I would say it depends on how much lower the position is, because if you were at director level managing a team of 15 and now you're suddenly saying, well, I'm happy to just do anything, I think it's going to be hard for employers to believe that, because they know you need a job and they know that you're more likely to leave as soon as you find something more suitable. However, if you've only been a director, for a short amount of time, maybe a year or two, you've still been pretty hands-on, I think it's fine. And, I actually have interviewed people, not necessarily in recruitment, but I've interviewed people who worked in management roles. So say I used to recruit for a lot of sales roles, and I've had people who, they work as a sales manager or sales director, and they're like, I actually don't like managing people. It's just a lot of hassle.
Yeah, no.
Being out being hands-on. So, I think that's maybe what I would try to emphasize, that even if you are a director, you are still very hands-on, and maybe just, have examples of the roles you were working on, and just explain that you really like the hands-on aspect of recruitment, and maybe just make it clear that your experience as a director should also help with, optimizing processes or employment branding. Or
exactly. And then maybe talk about the passion of placing people.
Yes.
That, the excitement you get when someone gets a role. Like, talk a bit about that, because everyone's always looking for that, aren't they, as well?
Yeah. And the company wants to be really passionate about the role. So I think that's, definitely emphasize that.
There's also kind of personal, so I don't know obviously what Jessica's situation is, but kind of post kind of furlough, and if you've been laid off, it gives you an opportunity to kind of reflect on the type of level that you want to operate at, and actually maybe think about the work-life balance, whether you want to pursue certain personal projects, you want to more family time, etc. And just being very open. Would you suggest, Margaret, just being very open about the broader circumstances as to why, and the context as to why you might consider a little bit more of a lower level role? Because that fear factor that you mentioned, like a client looks at it, thinks director, thinks, well, they're just looking for an opportunity now to see them over until something else comes in. So,
and that will be going on.
Absolutely. I think training motivations is very important, because you can say exactly what you just said, but also it might be the fact that, I had a client once who was applying for a more junior position, and actually not a client, a candidate in one of the jobs I was recruiting for, and he just said he wanted a smaller company. He wanted to be closer to home. His previous job was at a much higher level. The guy was traveling for 70% of his time. He never saw his family, and he just didn't want that. He was happy to have, a lower salary, but have a better work-life balance. And then I have clients, again, who maybe don't travel, but they have a very long commute. And then there's something that's close to home. So again, they are happy to take a pay cut for more work-life balance.
Have all those hours back in your life.
If you suddenly say hours, I think that's, it depends on what stage of your life and career you are in.
We definitely change, don't we? No matter the industry. Jane, valid point here. Many prefer to be, me. I'm so unmanageable. I don't want to manage either. All be managed.
I'm with Jane on that, definitely.
Yeah. And most importantly, we've got to the thank you. It's a popsicle. Okay. So we have the answer to the equivalent. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Emma needs to write what the Australian version is. I've forgotten what it is. It's gone out of my head. See, you learn something new every day.
have you in your time coached many recruiters to interview better? Have you found that kind of recruiters have approached you at all? Yes, no. I'm just curious more than anything.
Yes, but not many. I've had a few clients who are recruiters, and I've recruited for recruiters as well. So I mean, once I was the hiring manager, but I've sometimes recruited for recruiters in our team or in the wider team. I would be doing the initial selection, and I've seen quite a lot of recruiter CVs, and I've done quite a lot of recruiter interviews.
I find they're the worst at selling themselves. Like recruiter LinkedIn profiles are the worst. They don't write their achievements. They just write bullets. And you're like, but you look at CVs and profiles all day. You have the upper hand, surely, to even get a foot in the door. I'm stunned at how badly they're written. So it wouldn't surprise me if they also interview badly. I sure as hell interview badly.
I wouldn't say all of them are written badly, but I remember when I was recruiting at King, and we were looking for a contract technical recruiter. I think we received about 160 applications. Half of them were from agency recruiters. Some absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, the hiring manager only wanted someone with in-house experience. So actually, when you then started reviewing the profiles, there weren't many who were just the perfect fit, who really saw themselves well in terms of metrics and numbers. You're right. It's not just recruitment. I think a lot of people are very duty oriented. They just don't talk enough about the impact of their work. And
I probably notice it because it's the recruiters asking me, like, do I know anyone? And the first thing I do is like jump on a Loom and go like, this is how I'm reading your profile, and I'm not seeing achievements. I'm seeing, change this process, and I'm not seeing the so what, which is the benefit. Like I keep looking for that someone will read it, but it sort of surprises me when they spend their day reading that they wouldn't know what stood out. But
I think in terms of metrics you can put, if you struggle with that, maybe the amount of roles that you filled, right? So amount of positions filled, types of positions filled. Like just provide some specifics. I mean, if you have some information about time to hire or percentage of direct recruitment versus agency recruitment, if there are any processes you have implemented or streamlined, with the amount of people that you've hired through employee referral programs, if you were the one working on the employee referral programs. Just that kind of stuff. But it just honestly could be as simple as the types of roles you hired, what geographies, how many hires, and maybe candidate. If your organization surveys candidates and hiring managers, maybe you have data related to hiring manager satisfaction or candidate satisfaction as well. So that stuff would be.
That's a good one. I love this from John. I'm a terrible interviewee. I always end up interviewing the interviewer.
that means you take control of the interview, which isn't a bad thing. And I think you have to ask questions because you don't want like we also need to make sure when we look for work that this is the right organization for us. So I'll give if someone doesn't have any questions, I think that's a massive red flag.
Especially for recruitment roles. Oh, sorry, Glenn, go. I'll shut up.
I was going to say, bringing it back to the actual interview prep, and without obviously giving away all of the kind of advice that you provide as a coach. What are the sort of typical things you ask people to start sort of thinking about and focusing on? Are there sort of one or two or three things that form the basis for a good interview prep?
Yeah, I mean, okay. So firstly, I would say in terms of the company research. So of course, everyone knows to check the company's websites, but I am amazed by the amount of people who that's all they've done. You know, they will know a little bit about the company, just the bare minimum, but not really enough. Whereas if you really want to stand out from others, I would recommend that apart from looking at the company's website, you know, like really check their news, right? Like Google them online, look at their financial reports, look at any kind of third-party commentary on the organizations. Look at their social media profiles and like really review what are they tweeting, what are they posting, you know, what's the tone of their you know, just the voice of the organization. Look at Glassdoor to see what the current and previous employees say about the company. I mean, of course, you know, like not every, like you can never please everyone, right? So every company will have some negative reviews, but in general, if all of the reviews are negative, then yeah, maybe that's a warning sign.
It's funny, if you're a company and you're recruiting recruiters, you should be looking for really curious people. I mean, I think it's so important. It's in my mastermind, right? And I can't believe how not curious recruiters are. Like, I honestly, I get messages, which at the moment, I understand it. There's like a level of desperation from people, but they're like, oh, can I apply for the role at your company? I'm like, what company? There's me. Like, I'm not hiring. Like, why haven't you read my profile? Why are you making an effort? But it's like, as recruiters, you should be showing that you're curious. You should be showing all the stuff that you've said, that you've gone and found something unusual about them to talk about. So, oh, I saw that tweet from last month about blah blah. Like,
you know, a few couple of years ago, I've interviewed for a contract role in a just a software company, and I googled all of the leadership team and their YouTube interviews.
Yeah.
So I watched quite a lot of interviews, not just the leadership, but in general, how they talk about the company, how they talk about the product. And actually, there was a really one great interview about how the product works, which was just 5 minutes. I actually transcribed it myself, and I kind of learned it. And it was so great because then I was interviewing with a sales director for the position. And he's like, okay, well, how do you sell the product? How do you describe the product? And I, he was like pretty impressed because that wasn't information from the website. That was actually from the video. So I think, you know, you want to go there having some information they don't expect you to have. And, you know, talk to people who work, do some informational interviews of people who work for the organization, but just in general, like, you know, show that you've done your research, whether it's on your, you know, organization, interviewer, the job itself, and have some good questions to ask.
Actually, can I just interrupt you for a second on that? Because I've just seen that Glenn has answered Audra. If anybody is watching on Glenn's Facebook profile, I can't see the questions. So I can only see it on my Facebook profile. I have a feeling Audra might be on yours, Glenn. So I don't know what the question was, but they totally agree. I can't see it. Just sorry. Just that there's so many questions coming and this is awesome.
You've lost me, my one viewer there. Thanks.
Audra, come to me, darling. Lisa Constanti Duggan, darling woman. I read somewhere that an interview should be 50-50 being interviewed and interviewing the interviewer, so maybe not a terrible ploy. But I also love this one, Keith. Thank you, Keith. You wouldn't sign a singer that doesn't sing. So that's so true with the curiosity thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say 50-50 because still it's them interviewing you for the position. So I wouldn't say it should be 50-50, but I do think it should be a conversation. I do think it should be interactive. At the same time, you know, you are the one. You are the interviewer who talks more than your interviewee. I think it's on your own.
Aren't we assuming here as well that the interviewer is experienced? Do you coach people to deal with individuals that aren't very good interviewers? Because ultimately that's a compounded kind of scenario, right? You realize
the worst. I'm a really bad interviewer.
I would mention that because that's the whole thing. You know, often I will do a mock interview with someone, and I will, you know, we will work on how to answer specific questions. But you have to remember that sometimes you will have an interviewer that's not very experienced. So what do you do then? They might not ask you any of the questions we have just prepared for. So I think for someone like that, you know, just in case you have an interviewer who isn't very experienced, you need to know before the interview what is it that you want them to know about you, no matter what questions they ask. So I think in terms of what you can bring to the role, why you are really the best fit, you know, some specific stories and achievements, you need to find a way of weave that into your answers. So you know, if they ask you a basic question like, okay, why are you interested in the role, right? They will probably ask the question even if they're an inexperienced interviewer. You can say, well, you can explain the reasons why you're interested in the role, but then you can say, I also believe I will be a good fit, and then tell them why, right? Like tell them the specifics that they might not think of asking you during the interview.
It's funny that, like, on that, I'm just thinking of my own thing. So I had all those years together with Glenn, like, 5 years at Spring. And then I went to another agency, and then I went in-house, and I was never trained to interview. And like, I'm honestly, I'm pants at it. Sorry for anyone I had to interview. Love this from Jane. The percentage of interviewer versus interviewee also depends on which step in the process you are. So true. I don't know if this is Marcus Whedon, the company, or it's Marcus Whedon. Don't know. This one's come over from Twitter, so if I'm getting it wrong, sorry. Pretty basic stuff, really. The more you put in, the more you'll get out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very true.
So, yeah.
I don't know why Glenn has written how many telephone boxes are there in the UK.
Oh, sorry. I was replying to Audra. So this brings up a point actually, which Audra kind of made in the chat, which is when you get asked questions that are like, those kind of Google-esque think outside the box questions. And Audra was like, she's like, if you were a farm animal, which one would you be? And I was like, I've heard people being asked, can you calculate how many telephone boxes are there in the UK? Because it's like analysis and all that sort of thing. So do you prepare people for kind of left field questions like that as well?
I don't, because I mean, there's advice online how you can prepare. I've actually had a client once who was going for a job at Google or somewhere like that. I've found some resources, but I think these questions are stupid for a recruiter role. I think they just interview trying to show off. I don't think they add any value. If someone asked me such a stupid question, I would ask what's the relevance to the role. And no, I don't know how to calculate how many boxes are in the UK.
This is why Margaret is our guest. That's the exact sentence. I also think it's stupid. I just feel like, oh, clearly you don't want me. Like,
no,
I mean, it's just how does me knowing how to calculate how many telephone boxes there are in the UK show that I've got the skills?
I think some of these questions might make sense if you're applying for like a role in consulting that's very analytical. Yeah, I think maybe that makes sense. These questions, in my opinion, make no sense when interviewing a recruiter. I wouldn't know how to answer, and if that's how they interview, I'm not actually interested in the company. So
I've actually
sorry,
I've actually sat in interviews where questions like that have been asked, and actually the silence is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's genuinely when the interviewee kind of is like, what are you driving at? And then obviously the interviewer, possibly not as experienced, has tried to, prompt them. And it takes probably a very good interview up until that point, off in a completely different direction. Now, if I'm the individual interviewing, I'm coming out of that interview thinking, what?
It would put me off the company completely.
Someone just asked a question I've seen earlier, whether I prepare candidates for role purpose and company culture. I mean, both. You can't just do one or the other. I mean, they will only hire you if you are both a good fit for the position, but if you're also a good fit for the company culture. So you can't have one without the other. If you are great fit,
without giving away your IP, because people should IP. How do you prepare for company culture though? Is that by?
To be honest, for company culture, it's them who have to do the prep. Like they are the ones, they are the ones who need to do the prep about what's the company culture like, and that's how I would recommend looking at Glassdoor. That's how I would recommend looking at the Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, see what people are saying, what are they posting, what's on Facebook. That's how what are their values, right? A lot of companies have their values, and then if they mention their values on their website, I would help them prepare their competency-based examples of how they've demonstrated these values. So, I mean, that's what I do them, but obviously I'm not going to do this. So, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on. What is it? I was just going to say, I was just going to ask.
Sorry. There are so many there. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's, I think what you're illustrating, Margaret, is the kind of time that somebody needs to invest if they want to interview properly, right? It's not just a quick look at the website when you're sitting in the reception of the building ready to be interviewed. It's not, you do need to invest. So is there a particular period of time or amount of time that you encourage people to invest to interview prep?
Yes, I think it very much depends on your level of experience and the level of the role you're applying for. But just the basic stuff, the company research, right? Then you would want to make sure that you have your answers to all of the common interview questions. Tell us about yourself and why do you want the role and what can you bring to the role, etc., etc. But then the competency-based interview questions, I can give some examples of what they would be for a recruitment role. But in terms of like the typical competency-based questions they can ask you for examples of achievements and challenging situations and influencing a stakeholder and maybe managing conflict or working under pressure. So, maybe this isn't rocket science, but of course it takes time to prepare these examples. And for me, like I need to spend a few hours preparing the examples to make sure they're relevant. So yeah, it's absolutely going to be, from a few hours to a few days, depending on the level of the role.
And that's what just on that point, that's what I wanted to just illustrate. The amount of time and effort that somebody puts into prepping for an interview, feedback being, as Audra mentioned, oh, you're overqualified, is not sufficient payment for your time and effort.
And that's feedback. Like, no.
I do that. Like, that's actually one of my like really pet peeves. Like, once someone has spent time preparing for an interview, like it's your job as a recruiter. Don't give me an excuse as you're busy. It's your job as a recruiter, and same my job as a recruiter to give you feedback. So I know it's sometimes hard to get the feedback because you have hiring. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been chasing hiring managers for feedback many times, and they will just tell you, "I'm not suitable." I'm like, no, you can't just tell me that. So I will push them for feedback, right? What was good? What could improve? And of course, some hiring managers are better than that at others, but yeah, I would always try to give the candidate as much feedback, and I'm not talking about recruiters, it's just in general, anyone, as much feedback as I can, because how do you know what to improve if no one tells you anything, and especially
and that one thing could be such a game changer for that person. There's quite a few comments. Just want to quickly share. We don't need to touch on all of them. I love this from Jayashree. I'm a trained competency-based interviewer, yet a poor interviewee. I get that. I think that comes down to confidence.
Lots of people are in the same position. They interview others, but they don't find it easy to interview on being interviewed.
I think some of that, like, because you really want the role, so you get really nervous and you forget to breathe. And breathe, Jayashree. We'll talk about that because she's coming on my mastermind. I'm so excited. Mr. Bolt, hello, Mr. Bolt. My 2 points are this: know where you are, so company and interviewer. Know yourself. What do you bring to the table, and what do you really want? People forget the what do you bring to the table, don't they? As well. Some of them focus too much on the want, not the
100%. There are so many times I would interview a recruiter actually as well, and they would just they will talk about why they are interested in a role, which is great. Of course, you want to show some passion and enthusiasm, but then it's like a lot of these answers, like I actually understand like what you can bring. They all they've done this and they've done that, but 5 other candidates have done a similar thing. So that's why it's so important that you prepare some of these stories and examples, and like you have examples of roles you filled and challenging positions, and when you have to influence a stakeholder, or a challenging hiring manager, or process you've implemented, or when the situation when you failed to open a role, or some projects that you've managed. So the more examples you have that demonstrate how you added value, then the better, the higher your chances of making.
You also suggest a negative, and how you turned it around, or what you learned from it.
You know what? You never know exactly what you're going to be asked, right? Like, I think it's just a good idea to prepare. Like, I've been asked once, tell me about like a role that you couldn't fill, or failed to, or what, like that when you failed to fill an open position, what went wrong, and what would you have done differently?
I would have slapped the hiring manager harder even.
That kind of hard to feel or impossible to feel. Like, I think it's nothing wrong with that.
Half the time though, it is the hiring manager being unrealistic, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, and on that, Timmy mentions, if you get feedback, which usually does go back to the hiring manager. I'm on my mission. I'm going to slap him around for everybody. Good point, Margaret. What makes you stand out from your peers? Why are you unique in your experiences, value that you will add? It's really resonating. Have I missed any questions?
Yeah, I think there's a piece here as well. Now, if we kind of fast forward over the next couple of months, I think, and certainly if you look within the recruitment community at the moment, there's a lot of really good people looking for opportunities, and a lot of good people probably competing for the same opportunity. So getting your energy levels up to kind of go again and interview again if you're not getting particularly good quality feedback. Do you have any tips for that, Margaret? Any ways to kind of keep people really sort of vitalized and ready for each interview they're going into, even if the quality of the feedback sometimes isn't particularly good?
Well, I think there are two things here, like with a lot of people looking for work right now. Actually, if you don't mind, I'll come back to that, but I would also like to mention like how you can actually make yourself stand out at the application stage, because there was a role I've seen recently, and I'm actually looking for a new contract myself, so I can.
By the way, hi Margaret, hi Glenn. Don't forget, people. And Abby from last week. We need these hashtags going.
So I know exactly what the job market is like now, and obviously it's it's tough. So, like I've seen one role that actually I didn't apply for because I wasn't interested in the company, but they had 895 applications. That's definitely a lot more than I've ever seen.
890.
Yeah.
For
So,
a recruiter.
Honestly, I would, if that's the situation, like, okay, I wasn't interested in a company, but if I was, I wouldn't bother applying. I would try to find either the hiring manager or the recruiter or someone in the company to introduce me. Because how are you supposed to make yourself stand out from that? Unless you work for direct competitor. But even if you have worked for a direct competitor, and I didn't, it was me mainly.
Was that for a recruiter role?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you
No. Margaret, that role that had that many applications, was it a recruiter role?
Yes, talent acquisition manager. Yeah.
Because I've got a friend who's about to put out a head of people, and I'm like, are you ready? Like,
well, that's it, right?
I don't think she's ready for how many applications she's about to get.
In the week, I tweeted about like a founder who said he had over 300 applications for a head of TA role. And on Twitter, a few people were like, no, it can't be that many. It can't be that high. But actually, through the course of the week in conversations, I mean, they're in their hundreds. I mean, I did a quick skim today.
Suitable in the slightest, right? Like we all know what it's like. But I think in general, if you are looking for work right now, try to connect with recruiters and hiring managers, because I think just applying for jobs online when you have no connections, I mean, honestly, I think it can take a very long time. So I think, the ways you can do that, connect with the hiring manager. If you can find out who that is, shouldn't really be that much of a problem, right? It's kind of, we all know how to use LinkedIn Recruiter or, Premium LinkedIn. It's difficult. But it's not, I'm not saying you can always find the name, but you can try to find the name of the hiring manager, try to connect with recruiters, or contact someone within a company who you're connected to and ask who the hiring manager for the role might be. I've actually done it.
Exactly.
And then you can just do something like, thanks for connecting. I've just applied for, XYZ position, advertising. I know, you kind of mentioned some people interested you about the opportunity. And then you can say something like, I wanted to reach out to highlight my interest in the role. I believe and mention one or two reasons, could be excellent addition to your team. And just something like, good luck with your decision making. I hope you'll be able to speak in the future. So I think you put yourself on the radar. I don't necessarily think everyone will respond. And I don't think it guarantees you any chance of getting an interview, but I think it does improve your chances if someone remembers you, or at least if you put yourself on the radar.
And also, people don't follow up their application, and I always wanted to recruit the people that chased me.
Yeah,
I would follow up and say, Katrina, did you get my application?
Same.
And because I would pull that person in the shoulder pole, going, well, they actually really want to work for our firm. They're really interested. And obviously, you would do it along the lines of, I have these skills. I'm bringing these skills, which you say you want. I've got them. Because so many you sift through and they're like, they haven't even got the skills I need.
Once you have an interview, to your question, Glenn, I think your energy and your vibe is so important. Like you actually can't afford to be like, I think we've all interviewed candidates who seem like, I have spoken to some candidates who are literally just kind of, they're about to drop dead. They just had zero energy in their voice, like really monotonous voice. I think your energy and your vibe are really super important. You honestly can't afford to. I completely understand it's demoralized. You're looking for work for a few months and not much is happening. You have to get yourself to the right state. And, whether it's, everyone has different ways, but, whether it's listening to good music, whether you exercise, I don't know, just get yourself to the right state. Whether it's I think uplifting stuff, you have to, apart from doing the prep, you have to get yourself in the right state.
Yeah. And I think some of that can go from, the product, I've created the mastermind. It's my way of generating some income. And I'm like going, okay, I'm aiming at recruiters, but recruiters are being let go at the moment, as we've just heard the number. I can't focus on that. So I go into LinkedIn, I ignore all of the posts and I go and see who's got a job. And I congratulate every single person who's got a job, because it's putting my mindset in the right place. And it's like, I just literally, I don't care. I'm not looking at the news. I'm not looking, I can't. Because it helps with that. And I think also with the getting in contact with people, do your homework before you get in touch with them and be really respectful. Make an effort. There's enough. No more recruiter spam.
Very true, because on so many times I've been contacted by people who clearly haven't bothered to even look where I'm working, right? Because they say me this stupid. I'm not stupid, because I'm always happy to help anyone who contacts me. But why don't you just look at my profile first, just to kind of know what I'm doing? Because I have these random people asking me for jobs in the oil and gas sector. Have I ever recruited in that sector? Clearly not. So people can look at my profile. So exactly, I think doing a bit of research, saying something personalized in your message when you send them a connection. I think that's very important. And to what you were saying earlier about the right state, I so agree. Like, don't just, we need to know the news and what's going on, but I think be very careful about what you are absorbing in terms of information, because if you want to read, there's so many negative news every day. You don't need to read news every day. You don't need to spend hours reading news. There's loads of positive stuff as well. I think it's important to focus on the positive. Sure, know enough. Read enough news to know what's going on, because you don't want to be wrong. But if you want to focus on negative news, that's very easy to do.
And then you will just end up in, because we are all going to be struggling through this for a few more months to come yet. So you're right, you could just get into such a downward spiral by focusing on that.
No, but I also like when I see people just started a new job, right? I always I think it's
the little clap one. Even if I don't know them, I just give them that. Obviously, if I know them, I write a note, because I don't want them to think, who the hell's this weirdo? So it's but at least, and I don't just do the thumb up. I'm like, the little clap. So excited for them. But I really do think you have to make that real effort to focus your energy.
100%.
You can.
And I think there's a piece in here as well around, kind of the wider recruitment community and how we support one another. Because in times of crisis, the temptation perhaps is to kind of go it alone and really try and, kind of sort of, independently try and find something. But don't be afraid to kind of reach out to the wider community. I know there are a number of kind of Slack, Facebook communities where people will generally help you and really try and sort of, pass, as Margaret said, refer, introduce. So remember, those communities are there. The recruitment community is there to support one another.
Yeah, and I think because of the whole pandemic, I don't want to say we're on the same boat, because clearly we're not. But we're all going through the pandemic, and I think people are much more open to help you right now. So even in terms of informational interviews with hiring managers, of course not everyone will respond to you, even if you send them this amazing message. But I think in general, people are more willing to help because they know what the situation is like.
I've noticed there's such a level of vulnerability now. I can literally call you Margaret, I like my cash, I'm strapped. Like a really honest, frank conversation, but you couldn't have had a couple of years ago because you had to pretend everything was going. In that respect, I'm quite liking the general. Can we just please, we just need to take a moment. He's actually, Liam, he's actually growing one of these little cups in his beard, which you can put food in.
It catches food now.
We had a chat about it yesterday, Liam. He needs a beard oil. We really do want a beard oil sponsor. Thank you, Ian. Lovely to have you here. Loving the positivity all here. I don't think I've missed any other questions, unless Audra's put another one over as your sole person.
No, I think Audra's moved over onto your Facebook account now. So
she hasn't written a thing. It's gone quiet.
He's just viewing.
You know what? I know we're talking about interviewing, but one thing I would say to anyone who's looking right now is also your LinkedIn profile. Make sure it's up to date. Make sure you have a strong headline. Don't just put looking for opportunity, because clearly no one will be looking for a new opportunity. So maybe in your headline section you've got 120 characters. Don't waste it on just saying recruiter. So say you're a technical recruiter. Don't just put technical recruiter. Mention technical recruiter, maybe / some of the technologies you'll be recruiting for, some of the markets, if that's your area of expertise.
They've actually, in the last week or so, extended the headline as well, so you can actually write more.
Okay. Better.
So if you want to write, you're looking for opportunity, which again, I agree with you. I don't like, write it at the end.
Well, if you have space added, I think it's fine, but it shouldn't be the only thing on your profile.
Yeah, and not the first thing either. Put it
Yeah.
And there's that thing that I added to my profile this week that you kindly flagged up, Katrina, which was that open to work. Now, it just pinged into my inbox. I was like, oh, what's this? So LinkedIn are obviously looking to kind of offer this as a sort of profile update. So it's basically like an open to work that circles your profile picture. Now, I don't know whether it's for premium accounts or whether it's an account differentiation, but I've spoken to a couple of people and they don't have access to it. But if you go into your if you go into your edit your preferences on your LinkedIn profile, where you edit your preferences for jobs that you'll receive, it should be in there if you've got an option to utilize it. Okay. So folks, kind of check it out.
But the thing I see is always this lack of achievement. So the so what bit. So when you then, and also think about the person receiving your LinkedIn profile, where are they going to read it? So if they read it on the phone, it looks different to so if it's on the mobile, the summary is more important than the actual experience. But then most recruiters are looking on the desktop to make sure your experience is also filled out. Lots of recruiters put, oh, well, I the company information. They don't talk about what they're doing. And I see this time and time again, or I wouldn't be ranting on about it so much. I think your banner, like if you look at Glenn's banner, he's standing on stage at Disrupt. He's clearly in the moment, having a ball, and it's like showing your expertise. And you can see the audience's reaction. And I think that was the moment when I couldn't get your slide deck to work, to be honest. No, I'm kidding. But it says something about Glenn as a human. And I think that banner photo is such an opportunity to stand out from everyone else. And so few people use it that way.
Yeah. Put something on there that's fun, right? You know, because that's the thing that's going to attract people in. And equally as well, to Margaret's point around how you prep for an interview. And I really want to get your insight into this, Margaret. I think perhaps recruiters, by whatever means or reason, they go into an interview not fully articulating the value they can bring, you know, because we're perhaps perceived as a cost or service, but actually it's really about kind of putting together the value you can deliver for that business. You are important, and if we can drive towards kind of making ourselves as a community a bit more recession proof, I think that would be a key thing. So, you know, to your point, Margaret, when you've interviewed recruiters, what have they done wrong that you've kind of gone, why did you say that? Or, you know, what you could have articulated that better? Are there any tips that you could give people?
I don't remember a specific thing that someone said that was, you know, wrong, but I think just the lack of research, I think that shows. If you don't come across as someone who's really interested, like you're just looking for any job. So I think that's a lot of questions. I think that's another big one. You have no questions about the role, about the company, about expectations of the manager. I think that's a big problem as well. Not asking any of that. But, you know, the best people I've interviewed, they have done the research. They can really articulate the value exactly as you've said. Like they can talk about, you know, the types of roles they've hired, how much potentially money they've saved by direct sourcing, as opposed to hiring by an agency. Yeah, of course, you do both. Typically, as an in-house recruiter, you use agencies as well.
I'd also be looking for how they've partnered with that hiring manager.
Yeah, I think super important.
You know, how I built trust, how I got decent job descriptions, how I reduced, saved them time, was more cost effective, all that. Because not every recruiter does that. Many will just take whatever job spec they're given. So
management is like, you know, one of the top 3 skills I think for well, in any role, whether it's an agency or in-house, you know, how do you manage clients, either the hiring manager or your external clients. So I think examples of how you build trust, how you maybe dealt with a difficult hiring manager, how did you push back on, you know, hiring manager with unrealistic expectations. I think we've all had experience of that.
And I think also going, because we know we're going to go into, well, we are in a session, whatever. I don't watch the news, so I have no idea if we are or we aren't. But, you know, the last recession, we then had 2 jobs become 1 job. And then hiring managers decided that there were people out there that had the 2 sets of skills. We had that a lot. And again, it's that if you've done all your market research, you know that that's not true when you go into conversation with them.
I've seen a HR/receptionist be advertised. Try that for a combo.
Crazy. We're nearly out of time. We have exactly 2 minutes. Now, most importantly, #hi Margaret. For both, actually, if you'd like some interview coaching or some recruitment. Of course, our other talent acquisition professional is available, Mr. Glenn Martin. Hi, Glenn. #hi Glenn. And there's also my mastermind, but that's another conversation. If people would like to find you, LinkedIn, website, how can we stalk you?
LinkedIn is definitely the best one. So it's just Margaret Buj, B-U-J, B for Bravo, U for Uniform, J for James. And it's only one Margaret Buj.
It's hard. Australians have a really flat accent, so to do it's actually really quite painful because we don't speak like that at all.
That's okay. I'm sure you can say I think LinkedIn is best. It's Margaret Buj. Feel free to connect with me. My website is also interview-coach.co.uk. But again, all of these details are on LinkedIn as well. But feel free to connect.
Yeah, and you've got lots of little links to freebies and all sorts. You're very generous. So.
I've got loads, like even on LinkedIn, I think I have 65 articles, you know, on different topics related.
Wow.
65 articles, I believe. I think it's 65.
That's extremely generous of you.
Yes. All of it is there. And if you need any, if you have any specific questions, let me know, because it might be I already have a resource that I can send you on a specific topic. So
absolutely. I've learned loads. You're brilliant. Next week, oh my gosh, it's the 3rd of July next week. Sorry, I'm a bit on Groundhog Day. I can't believe it's July next week. How is it March was like the longest month ever and June has just gone like that? Anyway, 3rd of July, we have Liz Nevitt coming on, and I shockingly have forgotten the topic, but it will be interesting and it will be relevant because we're definitely keeping on track with what's going on at the moment. Margaret, thank you so much for coming on and all of that information. I was doing it the wrong side. Thank you for all of your questions, which were amazing. And loads of interaction, which has been really awesome. And we shall see you all at the same time next week, which would be 3 p.m. UK time. That's just for Glenn, London time, and 10 a.m. Eastern. We shall see you next Friday. Have a brilliant weekend, everybody. Bye.